Plantar fascia pain, aka pain at the bottom of your feet, is one of the most common injuries for Muay Thai practitioners and fighters, and unfortunately, it's also one of the most mismanaged injuries out there. My name is Hector. I'm a sports physical therapist, and I specialize in fighters and explosive athletes. Today in this YouTube video, I want to break down plantar fascia pain using a simple load versus capacity model and talk about how to return to training and fighting after plantar fascia pain using a S.A.I.D principle, specific adaptation to imposed demand. So first, I would like to break down the demand of plantar fascia in kicking and in Muay Thai. Because contrary to popular belief, plantar fascia is not just a passive soft tissue that does nothing. The first thing to understand is that plantar fascia runs from the bottom of your heel into the front of your feet. It works the exact same way like a spring. So even in my basic stance, it's being loaded in every single step to a small amount just so that I can maintain this nice fluid rhythm. And whenever we make any aggressive movement, we're putting a lot of force to our plantar fascia. For example, if I'm gonna leap forward, I have to produce a lot of force into the floor so the floor push me back. And all those force has to go through plantar fascia. If you have a kickboxing style, every single step, you're loading the plantar fascia, you're using it exactly like a spring to store and release energy. Think about a switch kick. As I'm switching, I'm actually loading into this foot, loading into my calf, loading into my ankle, and also my plantar fascia so that it can release all the energy into my next strike, whether it's a knee, whether it's a kick, or it could just be a teep. So it's not hard to understand that Muay Thai as a sport demand very high capacity from your foot and ankle, especially your plantar fascia. If you were an athlete before who are very used to loading those type of movements, or if you start training Muay Thai when you were a kid, it's probably not an issue for you. But if you pick up Muay Thai a little bit later, it is very possible that you simply don't have enough capacity in your plantar fascia to tolerate the level of force and the level of stretch that we put through. And anytime when we have a low capacity and high demand mismatch, that's where pain and injury is going to start to occur. And if you go online and look for plantar fascia pain relief or plantar fascia pain rehab, most of the time you're getting things like doing intrinsic foot exercise where I'm just trying to squeeze and pinch my toe together. Not to say there's no value in those type of feel-good interventions, but it's important to understand that those only provide a temporary relief. It doesn't solve the fundamental capacity and demand mismatch. So the real solution here is not to do something with temporary pain relief, but rather gradually build up the capacity of your plantar fascia so that you can tolerate the demand of Muay Thai. And next, I want to show you a couple exercises to build up capacity of your plantar fascia so that we can solve this capacity demand mismatch. So when it comes to loading plantar fascia, because of win-loss mechanism, we'll have to make sure we place our big toe under stretch so that we can load specifically into plantar fascia in our exercises. So the easiest way to start loading is by doing some level of isometric exercise. And this is one of my favorite. You're gonna find something between you and the wall. It can be a foam roller, it can be a medicine ball, it doesn't matter. You're gonna place that on top of your thigh and you're gonna slowly slide your feet back. You will get more stretch the more you slide your feet back, the more vertical the bottom of your feet is. But more stretch doesn't mean good. More stretch is only good if your feet can tolerate that stretch. So find whatever is a good starting point for you. What's going to happen here is you want to find a starting position that gives you a little bit of stretch on the plantar fascia where you have the pain. Once you get into this position, the next thing to do is pretty simple. I'm simply trying to drive my knee into the wall. So I'm trying to push into the wall as hard as I can feel a little bit of stretch or light discomfort under my plantar fascia. I'm gonna hold that stretch for 20 to 30 seconds. The beauty of this exercise is that you can control how hard you push. I can either push very gently, maybe just a couple pounds into the wall, or I can really drive hard into the wall as hard as I can. Remember, harder doesn't mean better. You want to find the Goldilocks. Not too challenging that will flare you up, not too easy, it does nothing, but just in the edge of discomfort so that you can build up the strength over time. So 20 to 30 seconds, 2 to 3 rounds is a good dosage to start. Most likely, after you do this exercise, you'll feel light discomfort and soreness that might linger a little bit into the next day, which is a good indication that you've loaded your plantar fascia. Then you will progress this exercise based on the feedback your body gives you. If the pain exists more than 24 hours, you likely did too much, you want to pull back. If the pain go back down to baseline within 24 hours, then it's good indication you hit the target. If you didn't feel anything after the exercise, you most likely didn't do enough. You have to go harder. And gradually over time, you tend to notice that to find that slight discomfort, you will likely have to push into the wall a lot harder than you did in the beginning. And another exercise you can use is also a simple calf raise variation. Specifically, calf raise on a pretty aggressive slant. What you want to do is you want to make sure that at the top of the calf raise, there is a good amount of bend between your big toe and your foot so that we're actually giving the plantar fascia a stretch. So you can use a slant. If you don't have a slant, you can simply put a towel roll right underneath your big toe so that you can achieve the same amount of elevation in the same exercise. And the beauty of this exercise is that I can progress it quite easily just by adding more external weight. And it's important to know that if I want to load it heavy enough, I want to make sure it's stable enough. So make sure you have some sort of external support, whether that looks like you're doing this in a safety Smith machine, or whether you're holding onto a wall or some sort of thing for balance. You definitely don't want just to do this and challenge your balance, because then you're just not going to give your plantar fascia enough load. It's a really dumb tissue. It doesn't care what you do. All it knows is whether you put enough load into the tissue. And after you can load into either of those exercises with good amount of intensity, you also want to make sure you keep progressing the exercise into a little bit more ballistic in nature and plyometric in nature. Because remember, the rapid store and release of energy is how we use plantar fascia in Muay Thai. So we want to make sure we can actually match that. And this track drill is one of my favorite exercises for this purpose. So the exercise is called a wall switch. So the first thing I want to do is make sure I align my body position right again, so that I'm putting a good amount of stretch into my plantar fascia. Then I can simply start by doing a wall march. And it's important to know that when I'm doing my wall march, I'm not just trying to very softly march. I want to aggressively punch into the floor so that I'm actually challenging my plantar fascia. And once I make sure I can tolerate this, here's the actual exercise. It looks like this. The demand of Muay Thai is that we use our feet and ankle in a ballistic manner with high impact. So as we rehab into it, we do have to match that demand by putting a very similar level of force with our feet in very similar position. And that wall switch exercise is a great exercise for it. 2 to 3 rounds of 8 to 10 switch with really aggressive intent would be a good starting point. And truthfully, by the time you can load your plantar fascia in a wall switch with aggressive intent, you most likely are already at the point where Muay Thai day-to-day won't stress you. Again, it's important to remember that plantar fascia pain in Muay Thai is just a capacity and demand mismatch. And all we have to do is follow a simple progression to level up the capacity so that we can tolerate everything Muay Thai demands of our feet and ankle. The progression I show is just one way to get there. There is a bunch of other ways you can get there, but the principle is the same. Specific adaptation to impose demand. You want to challenge your plantar fascia to a challenging level. Maybe that will look like something from light stretch, light force, and very slow in the beginning to something that's high stretch, high force, and very explosive and ballistic towards the end. Hope this video helped you. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and let me know what other injuries you wanted me to break down.